Okay, I think it's working. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. All right, we are good to go. Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. Great to see everyone this morning. Hope you are doing well, staying well, in good health. We are continuing our travels today to a new destination, which I don't know how many of you, maybe by show of hands, have ever visited this location, but it is now a very a popular, I guess, tourist destination for people visiting Israel. And I'm going to introduce it to you by sharing my screen. Let's see if it's working. Hold on. 1 second. Bingo. Okay. So our destination today, all right, it's working. Awesome. Okay, can everybody see on the screen? Can you see the Google Earth? Yes, thumbs up. Awesome. Our destination today is the kibbutz in the south of Israel in the Negev called Sde Boker. So if you take a step back, if you zoom out as you're looking with me, you could see it's right in the middle of the desert. Next to it is what's called Midreshet Ben Gurion. Adjacent to it, you see the fields. And then as you scroll out and you go even further, what's the local, I guess the nearest town, the nearest major town, I guess, is here, is Yerucham to the left, which is, as you can see, southwest of Sde Boker. If we go out a little further, you could see where it sits just south of Mitzpeh Ramon. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong direction. It's south of Yerucham. Let me do this again. Let's switch it around. Here we go. Better. It's just south. Here we go. North of Mitzpeh Ramon and southwest of Yerucham. I had it switched around. You can see how it is. You see where Rafah is here on the top left, where the little icon is. Nitzana, Izuz, Mitzpeh Ramon. This is the Negev, and you see it's also directly south of Beersheva. Beersheva is here, Sde Boker is here. So today we're going to visit Sde Boker, which you could see now when we get back in, is a tiny kibbutz. The midrashah is just south of it. Here are some farm tracts. We're getting closer. They have a vineyard. Oh, they have a cactus garden, but it is temporarily closed due to coronavirus. So if I see Cecilia's here. Cecilia, if you were thinking about going this week on a tiyul to the cactus garden, you cannot go. It is closed. Karen, don't put it on your itinerary for this week. But the big attraction of why people go to Sde Boker is what you see right here, Ben Gurion's home. And when you click on it, you see this is what you get. Fly here. We're going a little closer. We're flying in using the Google Earth. That's a picture of Ben Gurion's room. We're going to get even closer. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this. Let's see. Let's go to two-dimensional. And let's go to street view. Let's see if we can see it. Here we go. So if we go right now, well, I just lost it. Hey, don't leave. Okay, so now we're going to street view here in Sde Boker. This is what you would see when you were walking around the kibbutz, these style of homes. See, the trees are planted here. So why are we interested in this morning? For many reasons, but as you saw, this is, as we're coming around to it, this is Ben Gurion's home. And here's the story. We'll start today with a Maisa. David Ben Gurion, also known as Grun, this little Yidel who came from Eastern Europe, changed his name and changed the face of the Jewish destiny, first prime minister of Israel. Ben Gurion I'm going to stop this now. Everybody saw it. Ben Gurion is driving with his attaché as the prime minister, and he's driving in the Negev. And you saw we're south of Beersheba on the way down to Sde Ramon. He's driving with his entourage, and he sees on the side, out of the window, a group of huts, small buildings, and he asks the driver and the security man who's there, "What is this?" And they said, "Oh, it's a group of pioneers who are settling the Negev, the desert." He says, "Really, I'd like to talk to them." They said, "Excuse me, Mr. Prime Minister, it's security-wise, it doesn't really work for us to just pull over and visit a group of random ragtag pioneers. You can't just do that." So apparently, this is the Maisa. This is what they tell the Maisa. He said to them, "You have 2 hours. I want to meet these people." The Kachava, he pulls off. He meets the residents of Sde Boker, and he is absolutely blown away. He sends them a letter in which he writes, after he goes back to Tel Aviv, that he has never, quote, envied a person or the qualities of anyone or their property. But when I visited Sde Boker, I was unable to stop being jealous and envious of you. Why wouldn't I deserve to participate in a community like this? Now, I don't know if when he went there, it had even running water. Okay, it was very, very simple kibbutz, just like it is today. You can imagine even more so what it was like in the early 1950s. It was formally founded in 1952. But Kachava, when Ben Gurion stepped down from being the prime minister, he moved to Sde Boker with his wife Paula, Aleh Shalom. And then, even though he was drawn back to politics for a brief period of time, after that, he went back and he remained for the rest of his life in Sde Boker. Now, what would you think would be the reaction of the Chevra in Sde Boker? Not so fast. They had to have a vote. The kibbutz is a communal entity, so they had to have a vote. And there was a huge debate whether or not allowing Ben Gurion, a prime minister of Israel, to live in their kibbutz would ruin the whole avirah, the environment. And plus, no disrespect to anybody in this call who is over the age of, I don't want to say what, but they said, look, who wants an old guy on the kibbutz? You see him, the white fluffy hair, how much can he do? What's he going to bring to us? So they had a debate, and it was the machlokas. They actually only permitted Ben Gurion by one vote. Jews, you gotta love Jews. He was only admitted to the kibbutz by one vote. And when he got there, he was very active. For those who saw the Mar Makomos, I'll get to you, Mrs. Paul, in 1 second. For those who saw the Mar Makomos, there's a picture of him in the front. I can actually show you. I'm not going to take the time now. You can Google and you could see on the kibbutz website, on the kibbutz Sde Boker website, they have pictures of Ben Gurion working in the kibbutz, not just educating young people and not just having visiting dignitaries visit him in his very, very simple hut. He also worked on the kibbutz, actually. Okay, Mrs. Poland, do you want to unmute yourself? You have a question.
No.
Oh, okay. You raised your hand. Great. So Ben Gurion is now synonymous, and of course there's Ben Gurion University in the south, and Ben Gurion becomes synonymous with pioneers settling the Negev. And that's what we want to focus on today on Sde Boker and the Negev in the following perspective. What does it mean? You know, the Ribbono Shel Olam could have chosen hundreds of thousands of different people to settle and to lead the Jewish people back to a state of Israel. Many of us, we believe we have a tradition. Rav Shechter has a lengthy article about this, about the halachic sensitivity and the awareness that the state of Israel is not just a political statement, it is a religious statement. And it says something about Avodas Hashem and the way the Ribbono Shel Olam runs the world. And even is, according to Rav Shechter Shalita, is a step in the process of Geula, of Aschalta de Geula, which was a theme echoed by scores of Rabbanim, of great rabbinic authorities across the spectrum in the early 1950s, late 1940s. The state of Israel is the Aschalta de Geula. It's a step in the process of bringing us back to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. it's bringing us back to the Beis Hamikdash. 1 second. Out of I belong to the parents' union, but I also belong to the children's union. So because my dad is texting me that he can't get on the thing, I'm going to take 1 moment of your time with Mechila to invite him so that he can get on to this shiur because he can't get on for some reason. Figure out how to get it. Hold on. Here it is. All right. I apologize for that brief interruption. But if it was your child who was asking to get on your thing, you probably would also, you know what I'm saying? It's derech eretz. It's a kibbut avein. So the Gemara says that when kibbut avein conflicts with Torah learning, it depends if somebody else can do it or not. So in this case, it's me. I'm on it. Anyway, so the Rebbeinu Shalom could have chosen tons of people to do this work, to be the person to make this dream of Reishis Michas Gulaseinu, the Nitzanim Arishonim, the steps of the building, toward the building of the Beis Hamikdash, the Geula. It could have come through any shaliach, any messenger, anyone. And of course, everyone has free choice, but it can't be an accident that the Ribbono Shel Olam willed it, that this guy, David Ben Gurion, should become the man to lead the process of the rebuilding of what we call the Aschalta, the Geula. So what's the pshat? And what does it have to do with Sde Boker? So perhaps the fact that Ben Gurion chose to live out his life in Sde Boker is actually a reflection of this idea that he was a tool, a shaliach, an emissary of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to express our desire to fulfill our mission of bringing the Geula. Because he ends up in a place called Sde Boker, which literally means the Sadeh, the field of the morning. Okay. So I'm going to share now. Can everybody still hear me? Someone wrote in they can't hear me. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen because if you did not get the Mar Makomos, it's not a problem. I'm just going to pull it up here on the screen. So you can see the source page in front of you. Yeah, great. Top right, let's pull it up. Here we go. Top right, you see the picture of that guy? You see the older gentleman inspecting the goats? That is David Ben Gurion working on the kibbutz. This is Sde Boker. You see the picture there? You got the little Kova Temple guy on the right side, classic Israeli 1950s, beautiful. So I want to begin this appreciation, this understanding of how the Ribbono Shel Olam orchestrated all of this, that Ben Gurion should live in a place called Sde Boker. It's mamish perfect. It begins with a pasuk in Sefer Yeshaya. In Yeshaya, in the 21st chapter, this is a sequence of prophecies of Masa. Masa means a parable or a speech, a monologue, a soliloquy. And these are prophetic messages that are meant to be interpreted for generations. So pasuk says, Omar Shomer, in pasuk Yud Aleph, introduces this Masa Duma, which Rashi says is Edom, Rome. That's how we associate Edom. Kori Miseir Shomer Mami Laila, Shomer Mami Leil. What's going on? What's going on, watchman? What's happening? Omar Shomer, the watchman says, can you see this? Karen, can you see on the screen? Thumbs up? Yeah, okay. Omar Shomer, the watchman says, Sde Boker, the morning came. V'gam Laila, and also night. Im Tevayun, if you ask, Bayu, you should ask, Shuvu Esayu, come back and return. Now, this verse is quoted in the beginning of Maseches Bava Kama about davening, which we're not going to focus on today. But the simple understanding of this is that Sde Boker v'gam Laila, the watchman, who is the watchman, the ultimate watchman of all of us with a capital W, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God says there is a time which is coming, and the way that Rashi interprets it on the pasuk here is Sde Boker v'gam Laila. There's a time which is coming, which is Boker, morning, and Lila, and night. It's going to be Boker, sunshine, light, beautiful for the tzaddikim, for the righteous. V'gam Lila, it's also going to be a time of Lila, of darkness, of harshness for the Rishaim, for the wicked. So that's one way to interpret this verse. God is saying there will come a time that there will be morning, light, boker for the tzaddikim, and there's going to be boker for tzaddikim, lila for Rishaim. But if you look, this pasuk is quoted in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. You see now in the Rashi script in source number 2, this Rashi is on the Gemara, where Rashi says, Ba'asa boker? Did the boker come yet? A different interpretation of the same word, of the same verse. Is Svarim, there are those, you see where can you see my cursor moving around over here? Great. Said to them, the Sar, the officer, Kach Amar Shomer, this is what the watchman, the great watchman, our watchman, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Asa Boker, Geula Tavo. Geula Tavo. Boker means Geula. It means redemption. V'gam Laila. But after that, there will also be a night. Avol mitchila tieh golus harbe. There will be a very long night. Similarly, Lishna Achrin, another way of reading this, sheyigoalu, they will be redeemed. V'yibane miktasheni, there will be a second temple built. V'yachsuru v'yiglu golazeh, and then they will be re-exiled. So what does it say? Asa boker. There will be a boker. There will be a morning, a redemption, v'gam loyla. But after that, there will be another exile. And then he gives the Lishna Achrina, which is what he said here. Im tavayun, next Rashi, see here where the arrow is? If you will ask Im tavakshu ligoel, if you ask Hashem to be redeemed, bayu bakshu rachmim, and esayu shuva b'tshuva, ve'esayu legula, the gula will come. Rashi is telling us that the implication of this Gemara in Sanhedrin is that the word boker, morning, is to be understood as redemption, geula. You look here in the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Reb Chaim ben Atar, in Tzfat, in the Hilgit Tzfat, 16th century, 17th century, he says, Kol halayla, all night. This is in a different context. This context is talking about how sacrifices, certain parts of the sacrifices are burned. Kol halayla ad boker. They are burned at night until the morning. So what does it mean that these portions of the sacrifices are burnt kol halayla? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me see if you can make it bigger. Hold on. Yeah, make it a drop bigger. Here we go. Kol halayla, all night, shehuzman hagolus, that is the time of exile, hanimshal, which is compared lalayla. It is compared to the night. Shomer mami laila, that what we just quoted. That's what we just quoted in Yeshaya. V'chema pasuk, it says lini halayla, sleep overnight. V'darshu Chazal, the rabbis taught al hagolus. That's talking about exile ad haboker, until the morning. What is the morning? Shuzman shayarik aleinu kvodo, that God will shine, like the word barak, boker, related to barak, same letters, that it will, a barak is lightning. It will enlighten us with God's presence, and the morning will come. And then he tells you exactly when this is, what this means, how it relates to Hashem, and the timeline of this boker. So now we can understand very well the first message, you could say, of the whole Ben Gurion and Sde Boker situation is that Ben Gurion is the tool through which the redemption is coming. So it makes sense that he should live in a place called Boker, because Boker is the Navi's term referring to redemption. Even though he was not religious, he was secular, but for some reason he was chosen as the person of Boker. That's number one, that the state of Israel is the step of the Boker, and he is the chief architect or the implementer of that process. That's number one. But there's even a deeper meaning to this, perhaps. If you look here on the screen, you see a cover page You see a title page of a book. I'm going to zoom out now for a second so you can see the whole thing. Okay, can you see it in front of you? Yeah? Okay. This book that you're looking at, the title page of this book is called, anybody see what it's called? Drisha, George, you're nodding. You see it? Drisha Sion. Okay? Drisha Sion. What does the word lidrosh mean? Lidrosh means to seek, to pursue. Drisha Sion means the pursuit of Sion. This is a very important work authored in the 19th century by a great rabbinic figure in Europe whose name is Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer. We mentioned his name way back when we talked about the kibbutz Tirat Tzvi. For those who remember, when we talked about Tirat Tzvi, we didn't just talk about hot dogs and cold cuts. We talked about Tzvi, meaning Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, who was living in the middle of the 19th century in Europe, dreaming about moving to Israel, dreaming about building Israel and what it would take to come back to Eretz Israel from a halachic standpoint. And he was highly regarded by many of the most famous rabbinic luminaries. Right now, there is a lot of discussion over the last couple of months about Rabbi Akiva Eger. Rabbi Akiva Eger was one of the greatest, if not the greatest sage living in Posen in the 19th century. And he had a correspondence with the author of the Drisha Sion, Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, in which he is very highly laudatory of Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, as does the Chasam Sofer, who is arguably the greatest engineer of halacha in the 19th century, and the Malbin, Reb Meir Leber, some of the biggest names in Torah learning and Torah life, had a high opinion of Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer. And Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, you could argue, was a proto-Zionist. Before the secular Zionist movement ever got off the ground, Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer was talking about what it would take to resettle the land of Israel. And that's this book. You see, Sefer Drisha Sion, Lechevras Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, from Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, Ab Bezdin of Taran, and other Sfarim, published, this is a later publication. One of the great chidushim, of the great innovations in halacha, in hashkafa, in perspective, that Reb Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer brought to the world was how to understand the process of redemption. You know, there's a Rashi in Sukkah, the idea that, and some of us are familiar with, that the third Beis Hamikdash is going to come down from heaven in its entirety in fire. Just by show of hands, have any of you ever heard this tradition that there is this tradition that the Beis Hamikdash will be, it's basically a prefab building waiting in Shemayim right now, and it's just going to descend. Yes, we got a hand raised from the Kaplans just west of me. Lisa and Ed, thank you. So this is a medrash, this is Rashi's opinion, and it's a very well-known idea. But that's not the only approach to how to understand the unfolding process of the Geula. Says the Yerushalmi, a story. Okay? I'm going to zoom in because otherwise people are going to say, I can't see anything, it's too small. Complaints, everybody's got to see. Hold on, here we go. Can you see it now? There we go. Rava, you see it? Top line here where my cursor is. Rava v'Reb Shimon ben Chalafta. Rava and Reb Shimon ben Chalafta havu mahalchin bahada bikas arbel bikritsta. This is not standard Gemara language that we are accustomed to from the Talmud Bavli. It's from the Jerusalem Talmud, which is edited earlier. It also, the Aramaic has a heavy Greek influence rather than Persian. So sometimes it's very hard to learn Yerushalmi because we're not used to that language. So Havu Mahalchen, they were walking Bahada Bikas Arbel, in the valley of Arbel. Some of you are probably familiar with Arbel, Suk Arbel, which is a place in the north of Israel, not far from Tveria. It's a beautiful place to go on a tiyul. Anybody ever been to Tzuk Arbel? Anybody? No. Yes, Mrs. Poland's been there. Lydia, you haven't been there. You know what? If Lydia hasn't been there, no one's been there. It doesn't really matter even. All right, it's not so, obviously it's not so important. So anyway, they were walking in in the valley next to Tzuk Arbel, and they were walking there Bekritzta at the early morning, like before dawn, you can imagine. Vero, and they saw Ayeles Hashachar, the morning light, Shabaka Ora, that its light began to break. Amar Rabbi Chia said, Rabba, the Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, excuse me, it wasn't Rava, it was Rabbi Chia Rabba said to Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, it couldn't have been Rava from the Gemara, it just got cut off on the side. He said to him, Bei Rebbe, Reb Shimon ben Chalafta Bei Rebbe, from the house of the rabbis. Kach he, look at this line, this is the key line. Kach he geulason shel Yisrael. This is the redemption. So goes the redemption of Israel. B'tchila, at the beginning, kima, a little at a time. Kol ma shehi holeches, all that it goes, hi rabba, it gets greater, v'holeches, and it goes. My timer, what's the reason? Ki eshiv b'choshech, when I sit in the darkness, Hashem or li, God is my light. Say the rabbis in the Yerushalmi, not like Rashi. Even though the pasuk says Pisom Yavoa Adon, it's not going to be that the process of redemption is going to be a snap of your fingers and it's going to drop down from heaven. No, says Rebbe Chia. It's going to be Rebbe Chia Rabbah. It's going to be a slow process. What's the model for that? The Boker, the morning. It doesn't happen that it's night and then it's morning and just you flip a switch. It's not a switch. First, there's Alosa Shachar, the dawning light. Then there's Misha Yakir, when you recognize your friend from Dalit Amos away, you could put on Talis and Tefillin in the morning. Then there's Netzach Chama. Then there's full Zricha shining 3 hours into the day. Then it's sun is in the middle of the sky. It's a slow, gradual process of illumination. It's not one step. Now you see why this Boker is so fitting for Ben Gurion. Now we see. Because the process that we're in, we are going through a process of Boker. It's not just snap your fingers, we went from Golus to Geula. It's not binary. It's a process. It's smicha, it's growing, it's developing. And even though Ben Gurion was not the Mashiach, and he did not build the Beis HaMikdash, but he helped move the process along. He brought more of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's light into the world by giving us and enabling the Derech HaTeva, the state of Israel. So it's not just that Boker represents Geula, which is synonymous with the state of Israel. It's that the state of Israel is an expression of this type of Geula, of the Geula of the Boker, which unfolds slowly. Now we wish it was going faster. We wish it was faster. I'm sure that those pioneers who came in the aliyahs of the waves of the 1880s, and the Chavetz Chaim told them, and he was right, that the Geula is on our doorstep, and we're waiting. And Rav Kook came along and he said, we're waiting. Rav Tzvi came and said, we're waiting. All these decades, we keep waiting. We keep thinking it's just. And it's true, it is just, but it's still taking longer. But we don't give up because it's the light that continues slowly, a little more or, until one day we'll look back and we'll say, wow, it's totally bright. We have Mashiach. Maybe when the guys came from the first Aliyah, that was like the first light before dawn. You ever get up? Now it's so early, God awful. It's like 3 a.m. But in the wintertime, it's a little more achmanis, you know. You get up before dawn, you see a little bit of light. You go catch a plane at O'Hare early in the morning, at 6 o'clock to LaGuardia. Halavai, we should all get back to getting safely traveling around, all the things that Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us. We're getting on that early morning flight, and the dawn starts going a little more. So maybe the Balfour Declaration was a little bit of light. And then the pronouncement of the state of Israel was more light. And every tkufa we're getting more light. It's the Boker. That's the model for Geula. That's the Ben Gurion model. Maybe it would have been different in a different way. Maybe if we had merited, it would have been like Rashi, just like that. But that's not how the Ribbono Shel Olam has chosen to lay it out for us. It's the Geula of the Boker, of the slow development of the process. So now if we accept these two ha'aras about Boker, I have one more bridge to sell you. You can tell me if you're interested. Take it or leave it. Ha'aras. The word Negev, which is where Sde Boker is from where we saw, the word Negev, I assume, although I didn't see this anywhere, it is related to the word Linagev. Linagev means to dry. After you wash your hands, you need something Linagev. What is the towel in modern Hebrew, if I'm not mistaken? Anybody know? What is a towel? Modern Hebrew? Magevet. Oh, Ira, I see you're trying to say it, just you're on mute. Magevet. Magevet is from the word linagev. It's related to the word negev. Why is negev and magevet and linagev all connected to each other? Because in the negev, it's dry. It's a desert. So when you wash your hands, you need to linagev them. You need to dry them like the negev, which is dry. Right? Makes perfect sense. Oh, now we go back to the second reason. Why did Ben Gurion go to Sde Boker? The Rebbe Shalom sent him to Sde Boker because Boker is Geula and the slow process of Geula. But he also went there dafka because it was in the Negev. It was in the desert. The Negev is synonymous with the desert. That's why in the Chumash, Ka'as Negev Midbar Tzin. It's at the desert. And we all know, anybody who's ever been to the Negev, you know it's just a vast desert, and we saw it on the screen before. So listen to what Ben Gurion says. He writes in his memoirs, you see this? I'm going to go back a little bit. Here we go. Nowhere else in the country, not even in Jerusalem, does the continuity with the past have as much resemblance as here. My idea of the role of the desert in the establishment of Israel greatly resembles that of Abraham. So now, first of all, you see from here that Ben Gurion understood and valued the flowering of the desert. You know, there's an expression now about Israel, how they can make Jews, a bunch of Yiddelach, survivors of the Holocaust and ragtag settlers from Europe over 200 years of persecution. They make the desert bloom, right? You've heard of this expression, make the desert bloom? So this was the vision of Ben Gurion. This is why he moved to this kibbutz, because the kibbutz was in the south. That's why the Ben Gurion University is in the south. That's why Midrash Ben Gurion is in the south, because Ben Gurion wanted to see the south, the desert bloom, because he said, like Avram Avinu, it takes us back to Beersheba, where he called the name of God. Remember, this is a secular guy, totally secular guy, quoting Tanakh, Avram Avinu. The Negev, then its second paragraph. The Negev, moreover, offers a field of experiences to urban planners. We could easily settle 5 million people here. Yes, 5 million, and its spaciousness, comfort, calm, and beauty. And then he describes how we would do that. Next paragraph. This is all Ben Gurion's writings. We need Jews, natives of the United States, Rhodesia, Iraq, Russia, or elsewhere. We wish to see them come to us, live freely in both as men and Jews as nowhere else. They will have to work hard in order to create a new civilization, something completely new. We want them to settle in the desert and make something different out of it than what we have known up to on the earth, that is better adapted to the environment and will be a source of inspiration to all humanity. The desert provides us with the best opportunity to begin again. So David Ben Gurion wants to settle the Negev, the desert. Why is coming back to Israel? Why is the process of Geula about settling the desert, about making the desert bloom? Why is that important? So I want to share with you a Maharal. This Maharal is in the Be'er HaGola, but it's explaining a Gemara in Maseches Bava Basra. The Gemara in Bava Basra tells us some incredible, someone is commenting here. Ed is writing in, then Levi Eshkol created a national water carrier that made it happen. Yes, blooming the desert, but it's, yeah, okay. Yes, and there's a lot to talk about in terms of actually how they enable water in the desert, pipes, etc. Okay, but this Maharal This Maharal is commenting on the Gemara. The Gemara has a sequence of stories, fantastical stories that are meant to teach us very deep lessons. Very often, the deepest teachings, the deepest truths of Torah are conveyed through story. The Gemara tells us a story of a great sage who was traveling through the desert and he saw unusual things. And in this context, he saw certain birds, birds with certain fat. It's an amazing story, but I don't want to focus on them as much as I want to focus on the Maharal's one line about where these birds were. Because a lot of the stories that here, the stories are usually associated with one rabbi. His name was Rabbi Bar Chana. This rabbi took these very interesting journeys. So he saw this goose in the desert. Ulefichach Amar, Dechazina Hanu Absa. You see where I'm on the top line here. I saw these geese, these birds. Shiro Oso Bamidbar. He saw this goose in the desert. Ki Hamidbar, the desert. Makom Shehu Miyuchas Lamidas Hadin. The desert, says the Maharal, Rabbi Yehuda Lo, the great rabbinic thinker of the 17th century. He sets out an understanding that desert is associated with Midas Hadin. What is Midas Hadin? Midas Hadin is strictness, intensity. You get what you deserve. V'lachem, says the Maharal, Ein sham dvarim hagashmiyim. There's nothing physical there. Rak dvarim elokiyim, only spiritual things. For example, Sharei HaTorah nitna b'midbar. The Torah is given in the desert. V'chein haman, the spiritual food. Ki advarim hagashmiyim ein omdim b'midas hadin. Things that are physical, this worldly, do not withstand the scrutiny. They do not generate enough justification to withstand the withering, piercing scrutiny of judgment. That's why the desert is barren, because the desert is associated with din, with judgment. That's what he says. Ein omdim b'midas hadin rak mitzad hachesed v'atov. It's true. We should have been able to have bounty and beauty and flourishing in the desert, but we didn't deserve it because it's only deserving of those who earn it, because it's midas hadin, it's strictness. But what's happening? Perhaps what's happening when we see the desert bloom is that there is a transformation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is guiding this world. Obviously, in an ideal level, we would merit the sweetening of the din. We would merit to be blessed even by the Midas Hadin. That would be in an ideal sense. Midas Hadin means you get what you deserve. But we say it to Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, Mi yitzak lefanecha kol chai. Who could withstand true judgment? I certainly couldn't. If I got what I deserved, I would be petrified. Ideally, of course, we would love to see the desert flower and bloom because of Midas Hadin, that we deserved it. But you know what's amazing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God doesn't just use Midas Hadin. He uses a midah called the midah of Rachamim. There are two ways that he can bring us the Geula. He can give us the Geula with strict din, and that's going to be harsh and it's going to be painful. But maybe, and this is what happens when we blow the shofar, and there are a lot of discussions about this in the Sifrei Chasidus and the Sifrei Kabbalah, there's something called Hamtakas Hadinim, sweetening of the din, shifting from din to rachamim, from strictness to compassion. What happens when you take a desert, which is Midas Hadin, that nothing can grow there, and it starts to bloom? Like the Gemara says later in Sanhedrin Sariches, that one of the indicators of Geula, of redemption, is the blooming and the flourishing of life in Israel, of the land, of the fruit. When the desert starts to bloom, that's showing us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking what was strictness and turning it into compassion, to rachamim. Maybe we don't deserve to be redeemed. Maybe. But the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I love you nonetheless. You know, there's a machlokas whether or not tshuva is a prerequisite for geula, for redemption. That's the question. Is tshuva a prerequisite? Perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us with the flowering of the desert that he paskins that it's not a prerequisite, that Hashem is willing to redeem us even though we're not perfect. Even though we can't stand up to Midas Hadin, he'll still give us Midas Harachamim. And that is what is expressed in the flowering of the Negev. The Negev is a place that should grow nothing, because if we don't deserve it, it shouldn't grow. It's Midas Hadin. But Hashem says there's another Midah. There's a Midah of Rachamim. And maybe that is what we are benefiting from and appreciating and celebrating with the modern technological marvels of the state of Israel. Making the desert bloom, that's not a human technological feat. That is the divine spiritual gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us rachamim to say, I'm going to take the din and put it away. I'm going to take the strictness and put it away. And you can even live and thrive in the desert. It's strictness. The answer is no. We're going to take the strictness. We're going to sweeten it. We're going to make it midas harachamim. Maybe on the face of it, those Jews who founded the state of Israel, from a midas hadin perspective, are they the greatest tzaddikim? Are they the ones who deserve to be the precipitants of the geula, the precipitants of the redemption? Maybe not, but that's only midas hadin. But we are living with the gift of midas harachamim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, I'm giving you rachmanas, and you know how you see it? Because you can drive to Yerucham and see farms in the Negev. Sde Boker, you see a sadeh, a field in the Negev. Ma pitom. Where are you going to find a sadeh, a field in a desert? With rachamim you do. With din you don't see a sadeh. You don't see a sadeh. But with rachamim you have a sadeh. And you have a sadeh of Boker. Boker of geula. Boker of the geula that is kima a little bit at a time. And Boker of a sadeh. Boker of Rachmanas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, giving us this gift, even if we don't deserve it, to remind us that he loves us, that he cares about us, and he's there for us under every circumstance. As we're getting to this close, just getting to the Geula, just getting to the final Geula, as we go through this, we should realize it's ultimately Rachmanas. And that is symbolized and indicated by the growth in the desert, by the desert blooming, by turning Midas Hadin into Midas Harachamim. Making the desert bloom, that's the indicator. Great to see everyone. Emir Hashem Yisborach. We will reconvene in 2 weeks, not this week, but I hope you all have a great week. I will see those of you who'd like to tune in. We'll be on YouTube in a few minutes. Coffee Conversations this morning. Have a great week. Thanks everybody for coming.
Good day.